All right, so
Welcome back, right in the middle of a conversation that really means a lot to me as a person with Parkinson's. We are with Robert and Dr. Subramanian and Dr. McDaniels, and they're all about prescriptive wellness. What a concept. I wanted to share with you guys that when I first went to the doctor, I assumed that all of my motor symptoms were going to be taken care of. I mean, maybe that's assuming too much, but that felt like a given. And then all the other stuff is what you guys are talking about. The the confusion and the fear and the anxiety and the numbness and the some level of depression. I didn't even understand I had those things. So the need to ask those questions right up front, I really get that.
Susan, can I ask you, because this is part of our program coming in, the day one with the storytelling, the story you tell yourself as a person with Parkinson's, you just gave a big clue, I think, right there. I assumed these things would be taken care of. I didn't even know to consider these things. What was it like to unpack those from a storytelling perspective of here's what I thought, here's what it is, and wait, maybe here's what I'd like it to be?
Well, not only was it a huge relief, Robert, but I was in a class with a whole bunch of other people who said, "Me too." And so my, emotional component of my experience was supported by other people. Um, the storytelling, it was a relief. It was clarifying for me. It took a while to unpack my own story because it was layered with years of behavior of a certain sort. And yeah.
Let me ask you, go into first, what do you think about the group perspective of this? Because I think generally in Parkinson's, we talk about support groups and blanket. People go, oh, support group. My experience with support groups as a care partner has been not great because they tend to be negatively focused. And I understand people need a place to bring that out. What about for you, Andy? What is your thought about how we take the group perspective of wellness in this regard?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a really good question. So, when we're talking about wellness, it's not going to be the same for everyone at all. And so, I think, we really are spending time talking about who's sitting in front of us and what culturally they bring. And with culture, it could mean you're a woman. It could mean that you are, an Indian woman that's young, like me, who's a mom. Somebody like me can absolutely get Parkinson's, and this happens every day. And then, what my religious beliefs might be, what I believe health is for me, what I value in life and what brings me a sense of meaning and purpose. All of these things are important to think about when we're talking about wellness and, what I can do to help people to thrive and live better. So I think, for some people, it might be joining a Parkinson support group, but many Parkinson support groups are filled just with the same people that I just told you about, or the people that are the images of Parkinson's. And if you're somebody like me, you may not feel, that you belong in that sort of setting. So I think it's really individual for everyone. But I think what we know to be true, and Brad can comment on this, is that, human connection and feeling supported with a person or people in your life is really important. And when you get a diagnosis that's life changing, the first inclination is to just say, oh my God, I'm alone. What did I do to deserve this? Why me? And then sort of shrink into your corner. And there's a stigma also with some disease states and mental health as well. And so that stigma makes people just isolate. And so that's the opposite of what we know is actually beneficial. And so what we want to try to do is normalize the fact that everyone can get this diagnosis. It's not your fault, that this is something that's very common and increasingly common, and that people who look like me can get it, so that people don't feel alone. Because when you feel alone and isolated, that's actually a recipe for mental health issues and depression, things like that. And so then reaching out to people that are maybe in your community, that might be, your sorority sisters, it could be your group, or your, best friends from high school might be your group, or your family, whoever it is that brings you comfort and joy and can kind of have your back in a time when you feel alone, are the people that you should be reaching out to. And it might not be a support group, but some people do find a lot of comfort in being, around that advocacy, around a disease state, trying to, fundraise or get together and do events. learning in that group. I think caregivers can kind of connect. So it's very individual. So not for everyone. And certainly if you go to a support group and your gut feeling is to not go back, then, listen to your gut. That's probably fine. But maybe in 5 years, you might retry that same group and there might be some things that may be, speaking to you.
That's right. Different stages and different phases. Well, we're at the break point right now. Brad, you got the first word in the next one. Great job, everybody. We're going to further this conversation. Thanks so much for joining us on the Daily Dose.